The public pressure continues on Democratic senators when it comes to ending the filibuster. Today in Arizona, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, and 30 other protesters were arrested outside of the offices of Kyrsten Sinema. They were there in the heat of Arizona, protesting, fighting on behalf of ending the filibuster to pass the For the People Act. Folks, it's the second time in just over a month the Reverend Barber and Reverend Jackson have been handcuffed and taken away, protesting voting rights. Now, earlier today, hundreds of protesters met at Kachina Park in Phoenix to embark on the Moral March. The purpose to push Senator Kyrsten Sinema to end the filibuster, to raise the minimum wage, and pass both the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the For the People Act. Here's Reverend Dr. Barber.
Not a fad. It's not just a one-time moment. It ought to always be to open up a movement. You heard Reverend Jackson say that it's time for students and others to pour into the streets. And whenever there's a call to action, there must be a certain sound. So I want to do three things. I want to teach three things real quick. First of all, right now in this country, in over 30 states, the Poor People's Campaign and 20 partners, we have delegations visiting senators, Democrat and Republican. They're going into their offices. They're going into their office, and they are asking the question, do you agree with ending the filibuster? Do you agree with passing the For the People's Act, all provisions of it? Do you agree with passing the Voting Rights Act when it's finally written? Do you agree with $15 living wage? And do you agree with protecting our immigrant brothers and sisters and DACA students? Now, if they say yes, then those delegations will come out and tell the media. If they say no, whether they're Democrat or Republican, they're going to sit down.
Now, folks, like West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, Sinema is currently not on the same page as other Democrats about passing these bills. And so Reverend Barber and others say they were going to continue these mass action, these civil disobedience protests. We will be with them tomorrow in Austin, Texas, actually in Georgetown, Texas, which is outside of Austin, Texas, where there will be 4 days of marches similar to Selma to Montgomery, protesting the Texas voter suppression bill and fighting for these very same issues. We will be live streaming these events as well on the next several days. Now, I want to go to my panel, journalist Dr. Julianne Malveaux. She, of course, is the Dean, College of Ethnic Studies, California State University, LA. Omekongo Dibinga, Professorial Lecturer, School of International Service, American University. Faraji Muhammad, radio and TV host. Folks, glad to have you here. The pressure is working. Over the weekend, Virginia Senator Mark Warner came out and announced that he will support a narrow use of ending the filibuster for the purpose of voter reform. That right there, Julianne, shows what happens when you have the constant drumbeat of pressure on Democratic senators.
Absolutely. Senator Warner is late, but is good. It's so important for these folks to understand the history of the filibuster and what it's about. I just had an argument, or a heated discussion, one might say, on campus last week with a man who's on our side pretty much, who told me what the filibuster is in the Constitution. Well, it is not. These myths about the filibuster have to be busted, if you will. And so as Reverend Barber outlined, people go from office to office, raising the question, taking the information. We'll flip a few people. We might not flip enough, but we should be able to flip a few. And as you say, this is really about constant pressure. We know what the filibuster was for historically. We know that it was to deprive Black people of their rights. And here we go again.
You know, this right here, Omekongo, again, when you talk about the pressure, when you talk about keeping it front and center, that's why there are mass protests. That's why there are marches. That's why you have folks getting arrested.
One of the things I think is also important to see with that is that We see Reverend Barber, Reverend Jackson, and Reverend Theo Harris, who's a white woman. We're seeing a multiracial coalition and a multi-generational coalition to see those young people up there with our elders, with our leaders who've been marching and fighting for so long. These senators, they need to wake up, because there's always this idea of, well, it's going to blow over. Oh, that's just Reverend Jackson and Reverend Barber doing their thing. No, they have always been about building grassroots coalitions. And so what I also love is that, kind of going Dr. Marveau was saying, we're going towards the Democrats. People talk about Republicans and all of this. No, we got to put the pressure on the people that we put in the office. And when it comes down to it, when I see that image of Reverend Jackson marching down there in Texas, and when I think about everything that just him individually, has done for us and still doing it, what excuse do we have? And so these senators need to know, Sinema and Manchin, we're representing the people who come before us, we're representing the people coming after us, and we're not going to stop till we get this done. So you might as well wake up now and get with the program.
Faraji, your thoughts on this?
Okay, just real quick, I think that it's important that we keep in mind the timing of everything just as much as we talk about the actions that are being taken place. The timing of this, you have a new president who's been in office for about 6 months. You have a fractured Senate, fractured House and Senate. We are at a different point politically. There's an awakening among a lot of the constituents in the United States. So to have this conversation about ending the filibuster, but most importantly, getting people to organize. I mean, when you start to see white people, young white people walking with Reverend Jackson and Reverend William Barber, when we start to have these bigger conversations about voting rights and how has been a tool, another tool used to deny black people the right to vote, and just overall the humanity, deny us our humanity in this country. When all of those things are taking place, the timing has to be perfect. And so it is important that we keep that in mind. And I think that we need to keep that at the forefront, because if we don't seize the moment, or as we often hear, if we don't seize the time, then we lose the momentum that we need. We've been talking about this, Brother Roland, for a minute, the fact that 2022 is just around the corner. So you have to keep that added pressure, because the time requires it, not just from the people's side, but from the political side. Who knows how things will change in 2022? So it is absolutely important that that pressure is kept on the Biden administration in this Congress this year.
Folks, back to that roadblock unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in black-owned businesses, the black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.